Now, what we did in the previous video was basically take a look at one simple calculation that takes place in the spreadsheet if we're trying to figure out what a yield of a certain crop will be. What we're going to do in this video is take a look at the big picture, right? Because that's the only way for us to really grasp the intricacies of what it means to be able to farm, right? To be able to grow food. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go out with Marv, and he's going to walk us through the spreadsheet and all the different sheets within the spreadsheet. And that's going to give us sort of a nice visual of what the flow of information is, what the flow of the decisions they have to make is, and some of the tasks involved for them to get their project off the ground, from basically going from the beginning of the season all the way to the end of the season. And the best way for us to do this, to get a nice visual of what's happening, is for us to create a flow chart, which is basically just a simple diagram showing the different tasks involved in a project and all the decisions, the main decisions, the crucial decisions that one has to make sure that the project is flowing properly from beginning all the way to the end. Okay, and that's basically what we're about to do in this video. And the flow chart that we're going to take a look at is what you see in front of you, and we're going to continuously refer to this chart, and together with this visual and with what Marv is about to explain to us and the different sheets that we're going to take a look at, all of this should give us a pretty good idea of what's involved in farming and what it takes to be able to do a project like this. In the previous section, what we did was zoom into one of the sections in the spreadsheet and take a look at a couple of cells and what they represent, and basically us functioning as a system, because that's what we are, trying to understand what Marv and Vanessa are doing with their farming, right? Because that's a system we're trying to understand. So what we did was zoom in, take a look at the micro, and what we're going to do now is zoom out and take a look at the macro, take a look at the big picture. And what we're going to do is, I printed it off, the sections they have on their spreadsheet. And, I started going through this thing, and there's a lot of variables here, there's a lot of units here, and it's broken down. It's basically organized in a way that they can get their project done, right? So Marv is going to, take us on a little walk and tell us what each one of these sections are, and basically how they've planned out their project. Okay. Hey Marv, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Thanks for coming out.
My pleasure.
Okay, so let's just do a quick little run through this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What we have is basically, you guys decided to do a farm, right?
Yeah.
And your first thing, based on your spreadsheet, based on you guys finally agreeing that you're going to go out there and do your thing, what you had to do was come up with basically a menu, right?
Yeah. Basically what the members of the CSA, the Community Sponsored Agriculture, would be getting every week on a breakdown of the actual crops they'd be getting. Yeah.
So the first thing is menu. And this menu is basically what you're giving to your customers, the people who are buying into the CSA.
For the weekly shares, yeah.
For the weekly shares.
Yeah.
And then you have another menu here for the market, or basically what you're going to take to the farmers market on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is market. Cool. So those are basically, this is basically what you plan on your product.
Mm-hmm.
These two things are your product. That's what you're part of your business plan. This is what you're producing out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing that you have, this sheet that you have here is because this is what you want to produce, this is what you want to get out.
Yeah.
You have the next section in the spreadsheet is your harvest target. This is what you have to harvest to be able to supply your customers.
Exactly.
Okay. So this next section is your harvest target, which is basically, these two things plus or minus, certain amount depending on what's happening. So this is basically your harvest target, and then the next sheet that you have is basically your field work, what you need to do to meet your harvest target so you can supply your customers.
Yeah.
Right. So the next sheet is field worksheet, which is basically, it's broken down into harvest date to maturity. It's got a lot of time factors in there, and it's got your yield coming out. what you're going to get depending on what you're planting. You know?
Like an overview of when things have to be planted so that they're coming up at the right time, and so that we have, again, so we're meeting the targets and then being able to supply
your customers.
Yeah.
Okay. And these are you got your yield, and you also have broken it down into how many beds, how many rows of stuff you need. So it's really going down. The big picture is this, your field work, and you're breaking it down into what you're going to be planting on each row and what you're going to get out of each row and each bed,
right,
and in total. Okay, so this is your field worksheet. And then in the next, there's a couple of sheets that you have here, which is basically planting schedule, field planting dates. And these are broken down even, sort of overlapping between each one of these, right? Mm-hmm. So there is overlap between each one of these sections. Part of this comes to here, part of this comes to here, part of this kicks into here, part of this kicks into the next one.
Yeah, we're sort of like referring back to, okay, so we need this, today we're planting. We can break it down into a daily schedule as well. So on the planting days, it would be, we have to double check that our numbers are, okay, this is going to be enough for market, or we're going to need to plant a little bit more of this, or like you said, the tweaking, right?
The tweaking aspect.
Or one crop isn't doing so well, so maybe we will kind of hold that for another week and give more of something that's doing really well. That kind of thing. So
cool.
So
this one we're going to just call field planting schedule or planting schedule. So these are basically the 5 main sections that you have in your spreadsheet, and that is sort of a big picture of starting from the menu, going all the way to the field planting, right? But within this, there's different modules to a certain degree, different things that you need to do that aren't related to the sections that we talked about, right? The 4 sections that we talked about, which is one of them is the greenhouse. So let's add a greenhouse here, green for greenhouse. So basically, there's a whole bunch of prep work that you need to do for the greenhouse, in the greenhouse, basically, to get your seedlings germinating, to be able to harvest them or plant them in the field, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So there's a fair bit of work that you need to do, and this is you basically, when you go to the farm, this is where you start.
Yeah.
When you start doing the seedlings and stuff, and you're doing field work at the same time too, prepping stuff, right? Yeah,
like tilling it up and adding compost, and mixing that in so that it's a good sort of medium for growing. Okay. And then the stuff that isn't started in the greenhouse is direct seeded, as the DS there on so that's those are seeds put directly in the ground in the field.
So there's a whole bunch of, and you guys, Marv and Vanessa, have like three different sections in the spreadsheet dedicated to the greenhouse, and it's broken down into the timing, when you have to start germinating the seeds, how many seeds you need, the ratio of seeds to actual popping up, seedling popping up. There's a whole bunch of different cells here, a whole bunch of different information on what they need to do in the greenhouse to be able to basically meet their targets for their customers and their market, right? And what and it's all, there's a whole bunch of mathematics involved in this. When you go into each cell, there's formulas connecting different sections of the spreadsheet and different things dividing, just to make sure that this is what you started with. And what they've done is linked all these different cells together. So if you change something in the menu, it's going to change everything else. So that way, you know exactly what you need to do. So you can think about this thing as basically a very intense to-do list that they've created to get their project, whatever it is that they're trying to do, right? Whatever it is that you guys are trying to do. Yep. And one other thing that you have here, and where it all starts, and this is something that you've already done, which is basically you have a whole sheet here of how many seeds you're going to order.
Right.
And and you've already placed the orders right now. We're in, what are we?
Mid-March.
Middle of March, and you've already placed your order for the seeds. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole section here dedicated to how much seeds they're going to buy and what the cost is, and you know how many. And this is broken down into seeds per gram and weight and ounces and weight and number, and there's a whole different bunch of columns here breaking down what you need for your seeds.
Yeah, just streamline it kind of.
So there's a whole another section. Should we put it here?
Yeah.
Let's put it here. So there's a whole section here at the beginning that you've already done at the beginning of March, really, ordering your seeds. So this is basically all the different sections in the spreadsheet laid out, and everything is macro linked together in the spreadsheet, where, you know, if you change something in a field in one of the sections, it changes everything else in the other sections, so you know nothing gets thrown off. And this is basically, you know, the macro view, the big picture of what Marv and Vanessa are doing with their project, with the farming, with the CSA that they put together. So this is what they're going in with, and we're at the beginning of 2013. Hopefully we'll touch base with you guys during the season, and you know, delve a little deeper maybe into some of these some of the units, some of the variables in this spreadsheet, because this is really what it's about. If you want to get a project done, you need to create a list, and this is a pretty intensive list because it's a lot of work. There's a lot of things you have to take care of, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the season, hopefully this year you'll be able to weigh things and give us more data and possibly create more sections in the spreadsheet. So maybe we'll have a section here called, what are we going to call it? Results.
Results.
Let's call
yeah.
this results. So this is basically it. Marv, thank you very much for coming out with us. It was it was fun. I think, you know, it really helped me out anyway, to get an idea of what's going on. And this is your timeline. This is your to-do list. This is your schedule. This is your business plan. And again, hopefully, I hope you see this as results. Hopefully, at the end of this year, we'll come back and compare your results to what you expected. So basically, this is, you know, a very large scientific experiment that you're involved in, which is basically what you love doing.
Yeah.
Work. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, cool. So do you put them one at a time or a bunch at a time, or do you spray? Is there any places that you spray seeds? No spraying.
No.
People don't do that really.
It's called broadcast seeding.
Seeding?
People do it with things like cover crop. We did that with a cover crop in the fall.
What's a cover crop?
It basically it say like oats or alfalfa. You put it in there,
okay.
and it comes up, and it can either overwinter, or basically it holds the nutrients in the plant, and then you till it right in the spring.
Oh, so you don't harvest any of this?
No,
this is what you do to maintain your fields.
Yeah, to keep them healthy. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, you see it all over, like people in farmers' fields. If you see like a nice big green clover thing, so they're doing that to sort of hold their nutrients in.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's it called again? It's spraying the seeds.
Broadcast
seeding.
Broadcast seeding, but it's the whole thing is a cover crop.
It's a cover crop.
Yeah.
It's like growing grass.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, cool.